Oh, we really are being live streamed.
Hey,
That was easier than I thought. Does anyone even know we're being live streamed?
Some random person on YouTube just figured it out, I'm sure.
I thought you were joking. That's pretty cool.
All right.
Okay. Well, I can get started if we're ready. Then as people flow in. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. We're really excited to kind of give you an update, mid-year update on where we are with high school, as well as hopefully get some thoughts and questions from your end as well. Although I'm hoping that I've addressed some things in this slideshow that I'm going to share as well. I put some thought into it to see if there's just to kind of validate that we have been listening all year long too. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my slideshow here. For anyone who hasn't met me yet, my name is Jessica Schmoller. This year, I have a couple of different roles with our high school team. I'm part math subject area specialist. So if you have a student doing pre-algebra, algebra 1, business math, you've probably seen my name there. I also work with our educational coaches as the EC coordinator. And then I'm also doing some project management for our high school team. So I'm doing a lot of different things with high school. So I will go ahead and share my screen now. And we'll get this started. So before this meeting, slideshow look good on everyone's end?
Yep.
Excellent. So before this meeting, we did send out a survey to see if we could collect any questions from anyone before the meeting that I could just address. I apologize if you did send a question in later in the day today. At the time that I made my slideshow, or at the time I was finalizing my slideshow, I only had one question on the form. And so the first question that I have here, I'm just going to address it right out of the gate. It's a really great question. I'm actually really excited to answer this because the answer is pretty simple. So this parent asked about our policy as far as when a student has to retake a class. The answer to this question is that yes, your student did misunderstand. The only time we're going to ask a student to retake a class is if they did not pass the class. If they were missing enough work that it impacted their grade to a point where they are no longer passing, then yes, we will ask a student to retake a class. If they're missing a couple of assignments here and there, but their grade is still a passing grade, they do not have to retake that class. So I'm hoping that my answer here has cleared this question up specifically. All right. Okay, so since I only had one question specifically, I chose to go with a theme for our presentation here, more about where we are as a high school team. Kind of the vibe I got was that there's some confusion or maybe just some desire to know where we are as a high school team, how we feel about where things are right now. And so I'm going to present this from the high school team. I'm, the representative, but this is something that the team, we all input our thoughts into this presentation. So where we are right now, one of the things I wanted to highlight, this was a really fun exercise for me, is what we've accomplished in the last year as a high school team. And I'm talking the last calendar year. It's 2023, new year, but in the last calendar year from the start of 2022 to now, we have accomplished the following things. We've developed an educational coach team that focuses on students and parents. We've developed a team of subject area specialists that focus on developing and managing curriculum that both meet standards and provide options to our families and students. We've designed hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of Canvas courses, each customized to specific curriculum choices. We've developed stronger pacing, submission, and feedback expectations for students, and so that students and teachers are more aware of their learning and progress. We've developed additional student support in the form of office hours, wellness counseling, and college and career planning. We've also adopted a new record-keeping system for student schedules, grading, and transcripts. That's all been on the back end, but it has been something that we've tackled as a team and implemented very well. One example of one of our major accomplishments this year is how smooth our grading process went at the end of the first quarter, how we were able to enter our grades in a timely manner, send home progress reports and transcripts in a timely manner was something that we felt as a team was a major milestone for us this year.
Mhm.
So this is from the perspective of our team. I asked our team members to share with me things that they're loving about our program this year. And what I thought was really cool about that exercise is that a lot of us are loving the same things. Our team is seeing a lot of the same wins right now when we look at our program. One of those things being that improved grading process between things like Canvas and our grade entry on the back end. We've really improved the speed and consistency and accuracy is the other word I want to use to enter our grades and get progress reports, grade information, and transcripts out quickly. We'll be doing that again soon with the end of the semester, so we're excited to perform that process in another successful round. We've had improved quality of choices, expectations, and roadmaps for courses. These are things like our syllabi and the pacing information that we've put on Canvas, the assignment instructions that we've put on Canvas, all of that effort that has gone into creating those Canvas classes. Yes, they're not perfect every day, every minute, but we do feel that there has been some improvement in our management because of that, because of those tools that we've created. We've increased our high school social events. I know on the Bend campus, we had a winter formal that I think went really well. I sang karaoke. It was really fun. And we've had events on our Lowell campus. And I know that our student council is really excited to continue putting together fun events for our students. We have improved course management through Canvas. Our teachers now feel much more confident about where students are in a given curriculum at any point in the year. And we've increased access to our teachers through office hours and Calendly. One of the things that we feel we've been making an effort to do this year is be available teachers. We have 3 hours every week that we've each dedicated to office hours, and we have open Calendly availability that anyone can use to meet with us at any time. And so we do feel that we have done a lot to increase our accessibility as teachers. Now, I do want to take a moment and see if there's anything from the parent end that you feel we can celebrate about our high school team as well and our high school program. Is there something on this list that I am missing, something that's been exciting this year from your perspective?
Mhm.
Yeah, Jenna, thanks.
I do want to say the amount of care that the ECs have shown and the instructors. I think that's something phenomenal at BCA is how much the instructors actually care about the students as individuals. And in a small group setting, I think that's been really amazing. Especially your in-person cohorts are still small. You're not like having 40 kids in a class, or I mean, it's like 6 kids in some classes. And I think that's really amazing that you've been able to keep those cohorts also really small.
Thank you. Anyone else before I move on to the next slide? All right. So we do recognize that not everything is perfect right now. And so here is where I want to talk about things that we as a team have identified as areas that we want to improve. I will say this is not a full and complete list. There's things on this list that I would love to put on here, but there are a lot more back-end things. So we're working on a lot of projects at a lot of different angles. But when it comes to things that directly impact our parents and our students, some of the areas that we recognize need improvement include parent and student training with BCA tools, especially Canvas. We've heard a lot of people talk about how navigating Canvas is a new and overwhelming process, and it's not always going well. And so we have already identified that training for Canvas is not only something that we need to be doing with our staff and our students, but our parents as well. The access and usage of communication tools such as email and Canvas. This is actually very similar to that first bullet point, but again, just knowing that training about what tools there are, how to get a hold of us, and how we can communicate better as a high school team with our parent population. Another area that we want to work on improving is student usage of tools such as office hours and some of the tools that come with Canvas. Whether this is a training issue or maybe we're just not offering the right tools, but I do know that we're seeing a lower than expected engagement with some of the things that we are providing for our student population. I know for myself, I set aside 3 hours every week for office hours, and I sit in an empty Zoom room for 2 to 3 of those hours every week. And it is a little disappointing as an educator to feel like I'm putting myself out there and I'm not necessarily getting the engagement. And so whether that's because the office hours are at the wrong time or someone doesn't know about them, we're not exactly sure yet, but we recognize that that's something that needs to be improved. Revisiting our offerings for students that need additional supports or accommodations, as well as revisiting our offerings for students that want advanced options. You'll see on a future slide, some of the projects that we're working on right now includes these goals. Another area is onboarding of new students. If any of you are newer families, we do want to work on our onboarding of new students and making sure that you're feeling welcome into the community as early as possible. We've also heard that there's some improvement needed, and we felt it too, between campus teachers and subject area specialists. Depending on which campus you're on, the person teaching your campus class may or may not be the teacher that is grading your students' work. And so shoring up that relationship and the communication between those two different teachers is something that's on our mind as well. And then finally, this is kind of a big one. But defining our identity and what partnering with parents really means at the high school level. This is something that's been on my mind. I've heard it in parent feedback as well. What is the parent's role at the high school level, and how are we communicating that to you? I can say at this time, our high school team does feel that the parent has a very involved role at the high school level. Even when high school students are oftentimes independent, or even when the subject is oftentimes out of your wheelhouse, possibly, we still see that there is a significant parent role in things like providing a learning environment that's good for the student at home, helping a student learn how to manage their time during the day when they're trying to accomplish tasks, checking in with them and helping them understand what grade they got and why they have it, whether it's missing assignments or accessing Canvas or reading emails and interacting with their teachers. We're all here to be subject area specialists, and your educational coach is there to help you navigate tools. But we also only see your student for a short period of time each week. And so we are hoping that our parents are playing an important role at home to help balance that partnership. And so that's something that's been on my mind a lot about our high school program. As we've really started to develop our identity as a program, I want to revisit that question of what does it mean to partner with parents in our current identity. So here's where I'm going to open the floor if there's anything that you feel is missing from this list. Like I said, I've been hearing a lot of feedback from people, and so I hoped to anticipate some of the questions that would come up, but I'm still happy to hear from you, even if something matches my list. But I also want to hear if there's anything that is missing from this list as well.
Okay. I always have stuff to say.
Wonderful. I'm sorry, I can't see who that is.
That's
I will
Dixie.
break my patience.
Dixie. Hi, Dixie.
Okay. So two things. I want to address what you mentioned about the office hours.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, looking at this from the other side, that if you're not getting a lot of activity during that time, could be a good thing, meaning no one needs any help at the time. You know what I'm saying? Normally what happens, and I know with my student and I know with a lot of other kids, is when they need something fixed, they want it fixed right now. And so they're not going to wait for office hours. They're going to send you an email or they're going to send a message through Canvas and hope that they hear back from you quicker than waiting till office hours.
Okay.
I think that's probably part of that issue, because I know it's a nice time to be able to have that one-on-one, but it doesn't always fit, like you said earlier, with a schedule. And
Yeah.
I think that I don't think you're going to be able to find an optimal time because everyone's schedule is so different. So I don't know that that is going to improve in that department. Then you also touched on communication between the SAS and the on-site teachers. I've talked to Ben about this before. That seems to be the biggest issue we've had this year. The breakout classes on campus, a lot of times it seems the communication between the on-site instructor and the instructor that is actually making those assignments, sometimes the communication is not the same, or the interpretation of those assignments doesn't come across the same. And so like, I'll just give you an example. A teacher would give an assignment and maybe collect the work. And then there's an assignment posted on Canvas and the kids are supposed to post their assignment, but they turned it into the teacher. And so, so there's a disconnect there, and maybe it doesn't get posted to their Canvas until the assignment is past due or something. And it does cause some stress with some of the kids. And like there was an assignment that went missing for a month for science, and it was because we had a substitute teacher and he wasn't really sure what to do with it. And then the actual SAS didn't get the papers until a month later. And, it's just a disconnect. And I know that these things happen, but that's probably been our biggest stress with my student.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for elaborating on it as well, because that is something that with having two campuses, one teacher is an area that we know we need to be very aware of, and how we're going to manage that and make that as smooth as possible for our families and students. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more thing. With the full semester courses that the kids are doing on their own, all of their assignments are listed. So as soon as the term starts, they know what's going to be required of them. It's on the syllabus. The breakout classes, not so much.
Right.
It seems like sometimes the teacher is just coming up with the assignment that week or whatever. And so it's not posted as an assignment online until, we've had it come up on as late as Friday at noon for an assignment that's due by midnight Friday night. Well, by noon, a lot of high school kids on Friday, they either have a part-time job or they're done, they're off. And then that leaves it to mom to quickly post that assignment. So I did notice in Algebra Concepts, which I think that you have helped with that, there's something that you posted, I think you posted, every week there is something called the exit ticket. And so there's that open-ended assignment. So if the kid gets assignment in class, there's always somewhere they can post it to. And I'm thinking something similar needs to be implemented for maybe the writing, science, and social studies classes, so that kids aren't waiting for an assignment to be posted.
Okay. Can I ask a clarifier on that? I know one of the advantages that I have in the Algebra Concepts and the design is that those exit tickets in the way I've designed the course could be anything. They can just be a sample of what we did in class, or sometimes they are a more specific example or a more specific assignment. I know with our writings, labs, and social studies, sometimes it's for a more specific assignment. Would you as a parent and your student be comfortable, even if it's going to be a more specific assignment, for it to be a more generic assignment template in Canvas? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think the generic template is a good plan. Is there a way that they can go in and update the description for that assignment?
Yes.
So that way the assignment would be there and the student would know if they've been to class, basically what they're supposed to do. But the teacher could go in and update that, but it would still be there if they were a little slow, maybe getting it up, or it was a bad week. At least that assignment is open for the student to upload whatever it was they were working on.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Right.
Those are really good thoughts. Thank you, Dixie.
You're welcome. I have one more on the partnering with parents, what that means. Anybody that knows me there knows that I'm highly involved and I always have been. I'm a homeschool mom at heart, and I feel like it's really, really important that parents have a finger on what's happening with their kids, even in high school. I know a lot of kids are independent, but I think it's really important that parents know what's happening with their kids and what they're learning and being able to be a part of their life in that. And I do think that it's a good idea. This is just my thought, and maybe other parents do not agree, but I think it's good for the parent to be involved in the one-on-ones once in a while, just to know that teacher and make that connection. Because if I don't know her teacher, then we can't work together. I can't know what's going on or not going on if I'm not involved in some way or manner. I just think it would be a good idea for the the EC to meet with the student and the parent at least once a month or every other month or something, just so that they're making contact.
I love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
I do. I love that. That's another goal I've identified is, I mean, in that partnering with parents is just how can we engage our parents more with our program? How can we make you feel connected to our program, our ECs, our SASs? That's all wrapped up in that bullet point right there.
Yeah, there was we've been with BCA since they started, and the first few years prior to Zoom, we really didn't know our LCs. I mean, we met them and we picked up our kid, and that was about it. And after COVID and the Zoom thing started, I really got to know my daughter's teacher, and I really feel like that was valuable.
Excellent. Okay, there's a couple of things in the chat too that I want to address. Ooh, an idea to put office hours on students' Google Calendar. Okay. That could be something that our ECs could help students manage, a Google Calendar. I know we've done lessons about it in the past, but maybe we haven't this year. So that's a good idea. And preferring that all the assignments are there. Okay, so is that in agreement with what Dixie was saying, is having all the assignments loaded for those breakout classes? Excellent. And then we have from Amy, knowing that there is limited space, but having a place for the high school students to hang out when they don't have class. Okay, yes, that is probably that's a puzzle piece that we'll have to think about, but yes, wouldn't that be wonderful, especially on the Lowell campus?
And we are looking at some different options at the Lowell campus. We actually have one space in particular that I think is going to be a viable option.
Very good news. Excellent. All right. Other thoughts, Jenna?
So I have a prepared list, but there's a few things that really come to mind for me as a parent. And I didn't really plan well at the beginning of, or the end of last year, or maybe beginning this year when we were doing all the curriculum. And I didn't really do a good job balancing schedule. So going to each independent SAS, when it actually came to fruition, and I picked a lot of online programs where you don't get to skip ahead until you pass that lesson kind of thing. And so the intensity was really heavy. And I think on the parents' comment, the first thing, if you don't turn everything in, you get an F. That's relating to Rosetta Stone. So Rosetta Stone, you have 5 units. If you don't do 100% of assignments within a unit, you get an F. So you might do 50, 70 assignments. But if you miss one, that means you have an F in that unit and you have to go back. And that's something as a parent, I didn't realize, and I didn't know how to check. So that was kind of like, oh, wow, we have so much to do that I had no idea, because I could see he submitted it. And I was like, awesome, you submitted your Rosetta Stone. didn't understand the report and how the reporting function worked. So that was a little bit confusing to me. But I will say that having like one advisor to kind of review, if it was like Jasmine or something who says, okay, I can see that like collections makes you write tons of essays, and so does Edmentum makes you write tons of essays. And then if you're doing Edmentum, like health sciences, plus you're doing collections, you're going to be writing a lot of essays, which is fine. But if it's not a kid's strength, you might pick something that's maybe not as aggressive as an elective course if you're taking such a aggressive writing course. So I think like having that balance perspective would have helped a little, because I did not choose curriculum wisely for balance this year. The other thing, as a parent, I view Canvas through my son's account. And one part it's hard for me is the communication is the comments in Canvas. I don't know after things are resolved if you can like hide the comments, but there's so many comments on so many different assignments. I forget which comments we had finalized and we didn't finalize. So I don't know if there's like a check off. I know Google has stuff like that, like where you can check it off and like the comment disappears. But that part's really hard for me to stay on top of.
Okay.
The other part it's hard for me to stay on top of is on Canvas. One of the big mistakes we made at the beginning of the year is we were looking at missing assignments. There's somehow a little area in there and you're like, oh, what's my missing assignments? And then my son was trying to do missing assignments, but that's not actually accurate. We realized later on, you have to actually look for 0 points or different things. And like that, so that's where we fell behind a lot, because we were checking one thing. Then I realized the issue with Rosetta Stone. And then I realized, oh, there's all these other things that don't pop up as missing. So if everything kind of had the same donation, if like all the SASs were like, we mark everything missing instead of late or incomplete. I don't know what they're doing, but it's not popping up as missing.
Okay.
Trying to think of the other thing here. Okay, the other thing that I really like is student engagement. So I think having something like this for the students to voice, like, or take a poll or say, hey, these are some of the things that I struggled with. And maybe your guys going to do something like that also for the student side. But I'd be curious where they're kind of like getting confused. I know my son with PE and the format of PE with a printout of 2 weeks was really confusing, because the layout of PE and the actual date, like sometimes it's less than 2 weeks, sometimes it's more than 2 weeks, and that gets a little bit confusing. So I think like directly working with the students to figure out like, hey, what was some thumbs up? What are some thumbs down? How did you like your curriculum? What are some things you want to tell other kids about this curriculum? Might be really helpful to have that peer engagement piece. And I think we really should honor our teachers too. And I recently heard of another school doing this, and they have like a golden apple or award or something. And the kids get to say, hey, these are some amazing things that our teachers do. And this is why I want to nominate this teacher for this golden apple award. And I think that would be really a blessing too, because as you had this, like saying all the wonderful things that happen and some of the things that we can work on, but I think it'd be great for the kids to actually be able to honor their teachers in that way.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That's
Well, we'll
great.
take all those notes down. I love the idea of doing a student forum for sure. Hearing the student's specific perspective on what worked and what didn't, I think is really important. And having them hear from their peers as well is a really great idea too.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. All right. My next slide is what we're currently working on. So I know that's probably really exciting to everybody, but is there anything else that we want to add to our list of things that we are recognizing and acknowledging need improvement?
I'm going to mention one more thing. It's not a major deal, but I know it's because Canvas is new this year and it's a whole new program to everyone. Teachers post things differently from each other. So you have different, I mean, like the home page versus the module page and the grading, and as many teachers as there are that many different ways of it being posted. And so I think that is challenging for kids to try to find things sometimes, because I literally have seen assignments that only show up under the assignment tab. They're not on the module. And I would think the module should have everything on it, I would think. And then some teachers post assignments that aren't actually assignments. They still have the little icon next to it that says it's an assignment, but it doesn't have a due date. It's just kind of informational. So it's just a little bit of a disconnect because everyone's new at this and doing the best they can. But I think your training in the back end, it would be helpful if there was a standard way of posting every assignment, posting the modules and how the homepage is set up. I know it's a big deal to do all of that, but down the pipes, I think it would be good to standardize the appearance of the Canvas pages.
Hey, can I ask? Hold the room. I have my great debate. Do we like the homepage, or would we rather see the modules show up right away?
I like the modules at the top myself, but
I'm just curious to see what people in this room feel.
yeah.
Jenna?
I gave up on all of that and I only just go to the grades page and I just change class for grades because to me it's not as messy. And so, and it loads really fast that way too. And you can switch between classes and just go down the list. I like that really quick, clean list view. And I wish that like there was more hidden features. So after things were submitted, like you wouldn't have to scroll so far, especially attendance. And attendance is confusing too, because there's attendance / Nick Coates class. And so he misses assignments sometimes because they're kind of like blended together. So I think that to me, I don't know. I know that you can kind of turn things on or off or, you know, like so that they kind of disappear or something, but that might be helpful because it would not be so much scrolling, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right, thank you. Seems like modules are winning right now. All right. We'll probably think more about that. We may send a more generalized poll out, but yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to highlighting some of the things that we are currently, this is what, you know, behind the curtain, this is what the high school team is actively working on. These two items don't necessarily address every bullet point on the previous slide, but, you know, we are still people with 40-hour work weeks, so we can't do it all at the same time. But these are the two projects. These are the two primary projects that our team is working on alongside our day-to-day activities. First is we are already preparing for our spring curriculum meetings. And the reason we are starting so early is because we want to have as close to finished syllabi, Canvas classes, and curriculum options that are fleshed out and ready to preview by the time you're meeting with us in the spring to choose your curriculum. One of the things that I heard was, wow, if I would have known, I might not have made that choice. And so we want to have all of those things transparent and viewable to families at our curriculum meeting, so you know you're making the best choice for you, your family, and your student. So that is something that we just started this week. When we got back from winter break, Monday meeting, we started setting some goals for how we want to start approaching our curriculum options for next year. That includes updating curriculum options, adding curriculum options, fixing anything in Canvas and syllabi so that it makes sense, that we're putting out information that is valuable. We are currently setting our goals for what we are going to do, everyone across the team, as well as each SAS is also deciding on what their goals are specifically for their subject area. So that is a big project that we're working on, so that by April, when we start doing curriculum meetings, mid-April, we have our courses like 90% ready to go. The other thing that we've been working on since about the end of the quarter is developing tools and strategies to support students with workload management.